Hey everybody, it's Sean and Trey with Reactions to the Classics. Before we get started today, we just wanted to invite you to take a look at our Patreon page where we have all kinds of reward tiers, anywhere from reacting to an entire album to songs, supporting us for as little as $1 a month. It really helps us out.
And you can also check out our Facebook and Discord groups down below. Got a great community of people who love music. And all that to say, y'all, let's get to today's video. What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad, Sean. And today, Reactions to the Classics, we're going to be taking a look at Journey's Infinity album, courtesy of one of our main dudes, Kev The Trucker. I'm looking forward to going into this. I didn't know any of the tunes. This is the first record they had with a good old Steve Perry, so let's just get into the quick facts.
Yeah, you already covered. First album with Steve Perry, last one with their drummer Aynsley Dunbar. It was released in January '78 on Columbia Records. They briefly enlisted Robert Fleischman, and he actually recorded a couple of these songs, but then they ended up not using him as a lead singer. They had some creative and management differences, is what they said. So they brought on Steve Perry, which changed everything, gave him a more mainstream sound. This was their highest charting album, number 21, which now doesn't sound like a big deal, Trey, but the album charts were a bloodbath back in the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. So number 21 was pretty decent. They also brought in Roy Thomas Baker to produce them, Queen's producer. Got some of those layered harmonies.
You can definitely see that influence.
Yeah, so that also helped bring him to the mainstream. He achieved some of this by having each vocalist. It was usually Perry and Greg Raleigh, sometimes joined by Valerie and Neil Schon, singing each harmony part in unison. It had the effect of making 3 or 4 sound like a bunch more. Once again, much like Queen. You said you didn't know any of these songs. I knew one of them. It's the first song. It's Light. It's a very famous Journey song. I don't know where I know it from. It only went to number 68 on the radio in 1978. I was 6 or 7 years old, depending on what time of the year that was, so I wouldn't have known it then. But Steve Perry actually wrote it right before he came to Journey. He wrote it, though, about Los Angeles, not about San Francisco. He ended up changing a few of the lines to make it about San Francisco, where the rest of Journey was from.
Yeah, exactly, and it does have that like almost Southern California mellow vibe to it at times. And then we go into one of the people that impressed me most on this record is Schon, and his guitar solo.
The guitars are excellent.
We got a great guitar solo in this tune, and then those harmonies that you were just talking about, especially towards the end of the track, are pretty prominent. So this has all the makings and ingredients for a classic Journey tune, Journey sounding song, and I thought it was a great way to start the record.
And Perry actually talked about the main lyric he changed was, when the lights go down in the city and the sun shines on LA. He didn't like the way it sounded, so he said he was sitting back in San Francisco, and he said, when the lights go down in the city and the sun shines on the bay. So I thought that was it just sounds a lot better, but I guess that's because that's the way I'm used to it. The guitar on this, as you said, is awesome. I like the song okay because I'm familiar with it. It's not one of the standouts for me, but it is classic. The second I heard it, I knew what it was. That takes us to the second track.
Feeling That Way. This was actually an instrumental initially called Velvet Curtain that was shelved until Greg Raleigh decided to re-record it with words, changed the name to Please Let Me Stay. It was going to be on their third album next, but was pulled at the last minute. Perry joined, Raleigh rewrote the song, added a new chorus, and shared the lead vocals with Perry. And here it was interesting because Raleigh actually sings the first verse.
Yeah, he's playing the keyboards, sings the first verse, and then Steve comes in.
Yeah, Steve and all the harmonies kind of come in afterwards, which was a nice touch. I didn't know that anybody else besides Steve was going to be on here.
I didn't either.
Laying down lead vocals here. And the character in the song is wondering if the person he maybe had a short fling with is feeling the same way about him, or at the end of the day, is he just a fool? And so I thought this was another solid tune, and it segues nicely into the next track as well.
Yeah, Anytime, which a lot of radio stations back then played them together, and they play them together now. Raleigh sings the lead vocals. He's telling her he's there anytime she needs him. Very sparse lyrics on this one. Nice harmony on the chorus. Broken record, but a very good guitar. Nice solo in here. Raleigh's vocals are okay. I mean, it's not exactly the best draw in the world, Trey, if you're in a band with Steve Perry, who I think has a wonderfully powerful voice. So not exactly the greatest thing to be compared to him on the same album. So it was okay for me.
It did fit thematically with the previous tune because it notes, listen to me and enlighten me, yeah, I hope that you need me too. Essentially, the guy wants to see if this woman has feelings for him, if that's going to spark him into action. So it was kind of cool. And a lot of these songs do transition from one to the other quite well, and then we kind of shift gears because track 4 starts this reminded me more of like a heavy metal song.
It's much harder, man. The instrumentation is tremendous. Steve's voice is fine on it. It's about a guy who's really into her, something about her. Sparse lyrics again. I'm going to tell you on this album, with the exception of a couple songs, Trey, the lyrics are not what it's about. No. And really in the late 70s, early 80s with bands like Journey, and I mean there's several of them, it's not a dig on them at all, but it's really not about the lyrics. You're going to have a few songs, but for the most part, it's more about the instrumentation, just the sound, man. You want to put this on, turn it up, and go.
Yeah, exactly. What it lacked lyrically, it made up for, I think, instrumentally. It started with that ominous guitar riff before going into the more sunshine, Steve Perry type of voice in here, and just going lighter, and Sean was again a highlight here. And then we finish off the A-side with a song that is actually a little more lyrically deep, Impatiently.
Definitely.
This was one of my favorite tunes.
Mine too.
On the record.
Yeah, and then the liner notes of this, it's actually dedicated to Lynyrd Skynyrd. While they were recording this album in October of 1977, obviously Ronnie Van Zant from Lynyrd Skynyrd, as well as guitarist Steve Gaines and his sister backing vocalist Cassie Gaines, and many of their crew members lost their lives in a plane crash, so they dedicated this song to him, so I thought that was cool. It's also the first song that Perry and Sean wrote together. Perry wrote the lyrics, Sean wrote the music. Pretty sparse on the lyrics, but I know you're a lyric guy. What do you got for us?
Yeah, and you can definitely tell once you know the Lynyrd Skynyrd homage, you can tell that in here. He notes, for your song Inside of Me, this we bring to you in the shadow of love. Time goes by leaving me helpless just to reach and try to live my life. You had an acoustic that was during the verses, and then we go into the rock and more chorus.
Yeah, so, built, and I thought it really showed off Steve's vocals better than any song so far.
Definitely one of my favorites. And then that's going to move us now into the B-side, another really famous tune. I wasn't familiar with it.
I wasn't either.
Wheel in the Sky, and here the wheel in the sky is what? The sun. It's talking about no matter what's going on in life, that at the end of the day the sun keeps going and the life just keeps going on. Essentially, I could honestly see this being played in a fantasy type of show.
Yeah, that's kind of the way
like
I took it too. Yeah, and I think Fleischman actually was a co-writer on the song, so this is one of the ones they decided to use his song at least, and that takes us to track 7, Something to Hide, and it's just what it sounds like. Basically, he's calling her out. He hasn't seen her in a while, but he knows she has something to hide. He's not sure what it is. I thought the drumming on this one really stood out.
Oh, this was actually one of my favorite tunes because I think that Perry's vocals were at their height kind of in the chorus here. It just, I don't know, for some reason, this song really spoke to me. That's why I like going through albums.
Yeah.
See some of these hidden gems. And Perry really shows his emotions here, bringing forth kind of the pain he's feeling. You have the ooze in the background, adding some nice harmony. So I really dug this one, a hidden gem for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and that takes us to Winds of March. I thought there's a great guitar solo on this one as well. I think he's singing about the joy that his child brings him.
That's kind of what I was getting from it as well, just as you go through the lyrics. And here, a little different instrumentally, the keyboards were a little more prominent, as well as we had an organ in there.
Yes, we did.
Which was a pleasant touch, I thought. And then that'll take us to track 9.
Can do. Great guitar work on this again. Simple vocally and lyrically. Starts with great guitars and drums. Got some nice harmonies on this one as well.
Yeah, this is best played loud.
I agree 100%.
Though on this record, it's probably more filler. The message is simple. You can go out and do whatever you want, but you have to go out and at least believe in yourself and try.
Yeah.
And then that takes us to the final track.
Opened the Door. And basically, it's a love song. He's singing to her, telling her, you know, you kind of brought life back to me. You made my life so much better with all of these things. Vast instrumentally though. It starts out soft. It's not your typical, you know, it brings to mind for me, who's a Journey fan, although I'd never heard this album, of like Open Arms off the Escape album or off the Frontiers album, Faithfully. So it's kind of in that same vein. You know, Open Arms finishes the Escape album, this finishes this album, but this one's much stronger instrumental. I thought it was my favorite song on this album.
Really, and I think that thematically it was pretty solid because honestly, a lot of these songs don't deal with like a love where it's like a mutual love.
No, it does not.
Here, he finally, as we've gone throughout the album, he's been longing for it, and here we finally have love that's reciprocated.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And kind of blends all the best parts of the instrumentation together, and I think it was definitely a fitting way to finish this record out, and that'll take us to our favorite tracks. For me, I got to go Patiently.
Agreed.
I got to go Something to Hide, actually, and then I also thought Lights was pretty sick.
I'll go with Patiently and Open the Door, and that takes us to our overall rating. Like I said, Trey, I like lyrics a lot, but lyrics aren't always what it's all about. The instrumentation on this album is what really brings it up for me. I think Steve finding his footing, you know, it takes a little while, man, as a lead singer, especially a lead singer coming into a band that's on their 4th album and been together for a long time. That's a kind of a different dynamic to come into. He's going to grow more and more, and they're going to sound better than this, in my opinion, eventually. But I think they sound pretty good on this. For me, just as an album I can throw in and turn up, I'm going to give it a 7.
Yeah, man, I'm going to be right in that 7.25 range as well. I thought it was a good record. This is the first. I mean, I know obviously the big Journey hits, but it's fun to actually listen to a whole record. I mean, it's succinct, about 36 minutes or so.
I like that about it too.
10 tracks. There's not much in the way of filler on here, which I always appreciate, especially compared to some records that just get bloated with 14, 15 tracks. And
Agreed.
Like, we could have chopped a third of these off. Journey put their best foot forward here, and I appreciate you, Kev, just suggesting this record to us. And let us know in the comments below, y'all, what you think of Infinity, how it stacks up to other records in their discography. As always, Dad, appreciate the research.
Appreciate it. Thanks again, Kev.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that big thumbs up as well as that big red subscribe button, y'all. We upload every day album reviews, reactions, live streams, a bunch of fun stuff. And until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, and we will see ya.